what constitutes the Marxist method? What are the essential components of analyzing the world, phenomena, and events in a Marxist manner? I want to postulate that there are three essential components to this: materialism, history, and dialectics. And there's no specific order, because if you do it correctly, they're all being used at the same time in order to understand phenomena in its full holistic complexity. When you have a given historical event, the Marxist doesn't just look at that event and separate it. We don't just look at the facts. We have, of course, the famous saying from the conservative ideologue Ben Shapiro, "Facts don't care about your feelings." This is a very stupid statement, because facts, in a sense, are not facts until facts are understood with their factors. So you do a disservice to the facts, to the event that you're analyzing, if you don't understand it within the larger context. That larger context is not only the things that are happening at the same time around it, but also the things that have happened before it. So this is the interconnection of dialectics and history. When you understand an event, you have to understand it historically. You need to understand where it came from. What are the factors that led to this event? But you also have to understand how that event exists as a part within a larger totality. Events don't take place in a void. Events take place in a material world that is holistically structured, that has events that are parts here, parts there, that take place, that influence everything else. If you're going to interpret a political event like, say, the uprisings in July 11th against the government, you can't just interpret what happened there that day. You have to interpret the years of CIA backing of an opposition, the blockade, the long history of colonialism in Cuba. You have to also interpret the geopolitical situation, the role of American imperialism, how capital functions, the necessity of expanding into Cuba. You have to interpret all of these factors. If you just look at the protest, you're not going to understand the protest itself, regardless of how well you study the protest. This is applicable to every event. Every event that you look at, every phenomena that you study, you cannot just look at it. You have to look around it in order so that when you look at it, you understand what you're looking at. This is essential to the Marxist understanding of the world. You have to understand things historically, you have to understand things dialectically, which means that not just knowing that things change or knowing that things play a role as a part within the whole, but also understanding that the world is not filled with binaries, right? The world is not just white and black. The world is not just this or that. There's a middle. It's not just being and not being. There's becoming, right? The world exists in such a way so that at times those things we consider to be one thing turn into their opposite, right? So politically, how best to explain this than with the role of social democrats? I know a lot of us participated a year or two ago on the Bernie campaigns and on other progressive movements in the US. So they were, on one moment, our friends. Then attacks on Venezuela take place, attacks on Cuba take place, and they tout imperialist propaganda. What have they turned to? Into their opposite. They have turned into sheepdogs of capitalism and of imperialism. So things in the world are not fixated. They're not just this or that. They exist in such a way as to, during moments of crisis or other special moments, they can turn into their opposite, into something they're not. That which a thing is not is also contained into what the thing is. Understanding what the thing is also understanding what the thing is not. So these two elements, dialectics and history, are essential for understanding events. But the Marxist element adds one more, which is materialism, which is that events cannot just be understood by what we're thinking about these events. Events have to be understood concretely by the material relations that are taking place. Marx said once, when he was very young, in 1843, he was just 25 years old, he said that to be a radical is to grasp things by the root, and for man, the root is he himself. This is the essence of Marxist materialism. It is not based on just material things, like the crude materialist in France and in Britain in the 17th and 18th century. It is a materialism grounded in humans, and grounded specifically in human relations, both to other humans and human relations to nature. So these are the three fundamental factors we have to have in order to have a proper understanding from a Marxist perspective of events. We need to understand things materially, so how they relate to human relations, both to other humans and to nature. We need to understand things dialectically, and we need to understand things historically. Thank you. This is Carlos Garrido from Midwestern Marx signing out.